One. This is loud.
Rabbi, Joe.
Well, we have no clue. They have no idea. I mean, it's like it's just what they know it's not secure. It makes news and all that.
It's fascinating. Have you been talking about it?
Many years ago, Maui is.
1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1.
Wanted to say thank you.
Several hundred inches. Anyway, that's just green.
Yeah. Yeah, my dog got it. Perfect. You never take that off, right?
1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. Oh, yes, thank you. It's not, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
It's a plot. You went to Hawaii and we got it. Got something. They're all wonderful.
Expensive.
Yesterday it was like 54 degrees outside.
64 degrees outside?
Yesterday was like 50.
Yeah, I know. Oh. Me and Herb were going to play golf yesterday. Herb hasn't touched a golf club in 50 years. 60 years. Have you ever played golf?
Yeah.
When's the last time? Really? And you never invited me to play with you?
Who wants to play?
You see how it is? We went to different schools at the same time.
2 sets of golf clubs. And I lived next to a golf course, and then when it came to the
Did you ever see any of the major time? I saw Arnold Palmer play. Twice.
I've been to a number of
Does your wife play golf?
and if she did, she'd beat it.
She beat you now.
She's a natural.
I know that. Well, she beats you every week in racquetball. When's the last time you won? She lets you win when you propose to her. How many years ago? After the Bears break?
Service will play with that.
It's just like Jeff. And Mama's Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
That's fine. The page 192.
I'm good. I wrote it as well. Shabbat shalom, everybody. We're glad that
Shabbat
you're
shalom.
here. Glad that you're here, and no, we're especially glad that it's we know it's winter vacation, and for those who are still in the school world, and know that being up on a Saturday morning and fully dressed is sometimes in and of itself a feat, and so we're glad that you're here, and we're thankful to be able to worship together, to remember together, and to be together. So let's start by first just wishing people a Shabbat Shalom who are around you, maybe somebody who you haven't yet met. Just introduce yourself and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. And then join us, if you would, please, in your Siddur. Can you hear okay? Yeah, I see some scrunchy faces. I don't know if it's just because it's a scrunchy face morning, or if you can't hear well, let me know if you can hear. Thank you, okay. Let's start on page 192 with the singing of Ma Tovu that reminds us how good it is for us to be together, and how good to be together, page 192.
Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, v'ani berochasecha avo v'itecha, eshavecha lekodshecha be'iratecha. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Adonai ahavti me'od beitecha, u'mekom mishkan kevodecha, mekom kevodecha, v'ani eshtahave ve'ekra ebrecha lifnei Adonai osi. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. V'ani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chazdecha, Elohim berov chazdecha, haneni be'emet ishecha. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha
We welcome Shabbat this morning. We welcome being together, and we, at the same time, give thanks. We give thanks for, in particular, our bodies that have allowed us to be here this morning, our bodies as they change and grow and work and sometimes don't work as well as we hope or expect. And that whole complicated system of our veins and arteries and systems, they work, and we are especially appreciative when they work the way we hope and expect them to. And we take this moment, at whatever state each of our respective bodies are in this morning, we take this time to acknowledge and give thanks for those parts, those moments of ease, of comfort, of function that allow us to be here. As we turn to page 194 and share these words together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh kol basar, mafli la'asod. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, my God, the soul that you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biyado nefesh kol chai, beruach kol basar ish.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sakvi bina, l'havhin ben yom uben layla.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef gefufi.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rakach haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaber.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish harumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotein la'ayev koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir shena me'enai usumami apapayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifara. Let's join together in the blessing for Torah study at the top of page 204. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We seekers of God, how do we find you? In good deeds and in the study of Torah. And your search for us, you find us in the bending of the knee, in the rigor of study, in the honesty of commerce, through a good heart, through decency, in respect, true fellowship, companionship, and love, through truth and peace, in the no that is really no and the yes that is really yes. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Elu divarim she'en lahem shi'ur. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Join us, please, as we turn to page 218, for the singing of Psalm 150. Middle of page 223 as we continue together. You shall always be praised, great and holy God, our sovereign in heaven and on earth. Songs of praise and psalms of adoration become you. Acknowledging your might and your dominion, yours are strength and sovereignty, sanctity, grandeur, and glory always. We offer our devotion, open our hearts in acclamation. Baruch atah Adonai, El Melech Gadol B'Tishbachot, El HaHodaot, Adon HaNiflaot, Abocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech El Chei HaOlamim.
יתגדל ויתקדש ברבה, ועמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי כל ויום אחד, ובחיי דור בית ישראל, בגלה, ובזמן קריב וימרו. Ishme Rabba Mevorach Leolam Ulam Me'almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yitrama V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudusha Riku Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata v'nehemata Tamiran be'anema B'meru. Amen.
We rise for our call to worship.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai. La 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 la
take a moment and we acknowledge and we wonder, we marvel at the creator of light and of darkness. As we say, praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion that we may all swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Together, love your neighbor as yourself, you said. And light blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam.
Please be seated.
V'yavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha b'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשובך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Let's continue praying responsively on page 239. The eternal truth is that you alone are God and there is none else. Of all nations, rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation anymore.
You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart.
The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal. You were strangers in the land of Egypt.
Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God. Praise to God Most High.
Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. השיר החדש, השיפור גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו אמרו, יאללה לילה יאללה לילה, יאללה לילה יאללה לילה, יאללה לילה יאללה
Join us, please, as we rise for the tefillah.
That my mouth may declare your praise. Ya-la-la-la-la, 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 ya-la-la-la-la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avosneinu v'Imotzeinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Ha'gadol Ha'gibor V'Hanora El Elyon Omer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Yaakov V'Zocher Chasei Avot V'Imachot U'Mebie Geula Livnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh Ha'olah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayeh Melko Berachamim Rabim Somek Novli Verofeh Cholim Umatir Atzurim Umekayem Emunato Bli Shenei Afar Mechamocha Bal Geburot Umidon Melech Melech Memit Umechayeh Umatzliach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'chayot ha'kol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh ha'kol Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום וכתוב ליד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני לדור ודור נגיד God לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד God לך.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדש ציווי שבת, כולם יצאו ויתקדמו מתודע השבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. רצית בו קידשת שבת, אותה ופירת השבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. למעשה ראשית שבת, למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
Page 255, as we continue together at the top of the page in the Hebrew. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel, u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha l'chana el hodot.
Shabbat.
take a few moments, each of us, thinking, remembering, loving, and being thankful as we pause in silence. Shall we study a little Torah? You'll want to take out your Humashim, which are in the seat pockets just in front of you. And it is the Torah commentary. For those of you who are getting the emails, you know a little bit about the Torah portion today and the transition that we're making from the book of Genesis to our next book, the book of Exodus, to Shemot. And there are any number of wonderful stories and themes and transitions that we're making from the story of creation and our firsts to who we are and how we're named. That's actually, though in English we call it the book of Exodus because it really details the story of our exodus from Egypt, it really starts with names and how we're named and what those names mean and why it's important to have a name. So we are going to read a little bit from chapter 3, actually. Chapter 3, which in your Chumashim should be found on page 350. I think that's where you will find chapter 3, verse 1. And just for a little background, the book of Exodus begins probably somewhere, we think, around 400 years after the book of Genesis, by recounting how the descendants of Jacob really flourished and multiplied in Egypt. We're told that the land was filled with them. There are some who think that was a good thing, and some who weren't so crazy about the fact that they multiplied as quickly as they did. In the first portion of the book of Exodus, we see Moses' quest for and discovery of God's name. That's a section where we're going to do some looking. Pardon me. My mother would say I sneezed on the truth, so we're gonna see if we can really find his name. Yeah, she used to do that too. Yeah. So right, often, right? We would say. So this is really, there are so many juicy parts in the book of Exodus, and the section that we're going to focus in is maybe not where one would normally start, but it's the one that grabbed my attention this week. We hear all about Moses and his tumultuous beginnings. How many of you remember how Moses came to be and really how his story started? He didn't have an easy start. Who remembers, and just throw out any of the little facts you remember about Moses. We'll stitch together the whole story. Who remembers anything about Moses as a lad?
The bulrushes.
The bulrushes. So what in particular, Diane gives us the first kind of piece. How did his rocky start happen?
What's the question?
How did Moses's, that's a mouthful, rocky start begin? What happened? Why was he in the bulrushes? Right, there was an edict. Is that where you were going? Right, there was an edict that all firstborn sons should be killed, and so his mother put him in a basket. Right, we know the story from Passover. Put him in a basket, and what did she do? The Nile. Right now there are all kinds of rules and regulations about things you can't and shouldn't do with your children. That would probably be tops on that list, right? And then what happened? Yes, who's Miriam? His sister, right? Miriam, his sister, was watching, so he wasn't just abandoned, right? God forbid. His sister Miriam was dispatched to make sure that he was safe. And then what happened next? Tell us a little bit more. Who remembers what happens next? Pharaoh's daughter, what? And? Took him out. Can you guys all hear? Yeah, and? Adopted him, and? Where was he raised? In the palace as a what? As a prince, right? Good movie. Very good movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, good holiday movie, right? Right? What else? What happened next?
He observed the guard leading the two.
Yeah, and what did he do?
Did he kill the guard?
What did he do?
Yeah, he killed him.
Yeah. And how did that, go ahead.
We have to back up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even though he grew up in the palace, they sought someone to nurse him.
Right.
To be a wet nurse, and they brought his mother into the palace to raise him until he was 3.
Right.
So it wasn't like he got dumped. He didn't know his mother as an infant. He had a bond.
Right.
He just like.
There are all different points of connection that were made to keep Moses in these very trying circumstances with a not great start, as solid as he could be, right? That it wasn't ideal the way he began, but there were lots of different points of connection in his family to keep him thriving and strong, whether he knew or not, right? It's the proverbial, it takes a village, right? And his sister was a part of it, his mother was a part of it. There were midwives who were, we talked about them this time last year, who were a part of it, Shiphrah and Puah, right? And what else happened? After Moses strikes, go ahead, what happens? He leaves. So let's pick up our story. We are going to pick up at, those are the Cliff's Notes, right? That just gives us a little bit of framing. If you're not on Ellen's Minion Makers list, get on her list because she gives a very good, that's a plug. She gives a very good synopsis of the story. Thanks for Diane for starting us off. We are going to start on page 350. You'll find the bracha for Torah blessing at the very back of your Chumash. So we're going to start with that blessing, which is on page 1602. And then right after we start, who would like to read in the English? We're going to read verses 1 through 15. All English. David, thank you. So let's say our bracha together. Baruch et Adonai hamborach. Baruch Adonai hamborach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, venatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'Torah.
Now Moses, sending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, drove the flock into the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. An angel of the Eternal appeared to him in a blazing fire out of the bush. He gazed, and there was a bush on a flame, yet the bush was not consumed.
And if you had a highlighter, and I don't recommend this in your Chumash, if you had a highlighter, I would invite you to highlight, in your mind, highlight that section, right? We know that burning bush story, right? And what's noteworthy about that? What does every commentator and almost every reader who reads this passage point to? What happened? Well, where was God? In the bush. But what didn't happen to the bush?
Didn't burn.
It didn't burn. So how could that be, is what the commentators say first, right? David, please, would you go on?
Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this marvelous sight. Why doesn't the bush burn up? When the Eternal saw that he had turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush. Moses, Moses, he answered, here I am. And God said, do not come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for this the place on which you stand is holy ground. And we continue. I am the God of your father's house, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God.
Okay, let's pause just for 1 second. What, if anything, catches your attention? What are you noticing? Other than the bush isn't consumed, what else do you notice?
There's already a ritual of removing sandals and it's something you're supposed to do when confronted with a holy.
And what is that?
Don't look.
Right? Don't look, which is so counterintuitive, isn't it? When you're having this divine moment. I mean, just to imagine, as a visual learner, right? Just to imagine what that moment must have been like and to not look, right? And we have other instances we know where we're told to look away, right? Where our characters are told to look away. But then to remove your sandals because what? You're standing where? How do you understand that? The Shema is to focus on your hearing, not your seeing, right? So you can listen fully with your senses, right? So why take off our shoes? Why do you have to take? Can you not stand on holy ground with your sandals on?
What? They're made out of leather.
So we've got.
That's disrespectful to the animal.
So we have a little conflating of our Yom Kippur not wearing leather, right? Because maybe that's disrespectful. Maybe God would be irritated that we, right? Maybe, yeah.
You're more directly connected. You're more directly connected.
Right. Your feet literally are on holy ground. There's nothing, like when you immerse in the mikvah, right? When you immerse in the ritual waters, there should be nothing that stands between you and the water. So we brush out our hair so there are no loose strands that might come off. We take off nail polish or makeup or any kind of lotions or creams or anything that might stand between any cuticles that are hanging, anything that might kind of come off that isn't going to stay with us. We don't want to put any barrier between us and this moment, right? Quite literally, to be as close to the moment physically as we can. We take all kinds of precautions, right? So we remove our shoes to stand on holy ground. Barbara Streisand has a great rendition of that song as well, right? Standing on holy ground, right? And this notion of, I often think, it would be lovely to lead services barefoot. Not so much the culture of our place, right? But what it would be like to be worshiping in sacred community as we do, barefoot, right? Yeah.
On the lines of the connection.
Just speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry. In terms of connection, God identifies God's self here in many places as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, as opposed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
As I understand, it emphasizes that we had individual
Right.
relationships.
Right. And points of connection with each of our ancestors, right? Nice. Anything else? Yeah, Ellen.
So as a person who grew up in a palace where they had polytheistic existence,
Right.
this was the first time that Moses may be introduced to an invisible God and had to be told, this is holy ground,
Right.
compared to, and it's in nature, and compared to being in a palace, being on whatever stone they use polished, to be introduced to something else.
Right. This is how we do it. Right. This is how we do it. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you understand if it's from this passage that Islam removes shoes?
Could you hear the question? Yeah, go ahead. Were you, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So the question was, do I know if it's from this passage that that Muslim practice, right? That the practice of our Muslim friends and worshipers is to remove their shoes in prayer. It could be. I don't know. I certainly have friends who I could ask. So it's a good question. Yeah, it's certainly the culture and what we do when we go to visit them as well. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Let me check. Let's go on. Let's go.
Should we say Thomas synagogue?
Yeah.
From synagogue to the sand.
Yeah.
People go barefoot.
Yeah.
Say Thomas.
Yeah, I wonder if it's not to get sand in their shoes, though, right? I don't. Well, yeah. But I wonder what the rationale is behind that. Yeah, because it's not so much a Jewish practice, though it should be, right? It should be. So let's go on a couple more verses. Does someone want to? Thanks for reading, David. Someone want to continue reading?
And the servant continues, I have marked well the plight of my people in Egypt, and have heeded their outcry because of their taskmasters. Yes, I am mindful of their sufferings. I have come down to rescue them from the Egyptians, and to bring them out of the land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the region of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the
Perizzites, yeah.
and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. Moreover, I have seen how the Egyptians oppress them. Come, therefore I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt.
And now, yes, go ahead.
Is this the first time we talked about how, his mom, fed him the first nursed him the
Yep.
first 3 years, and his sister was involved. Is this the first time he's realizing he's an Israelite, though, as an adult?
I think he knew before. Does anybody else remember? Yeah, I don't think it's the first time, but maybe the first time we see it. I don't know if it's the first time we see it in print.
Maybe the first time it's articulated.
Yeah, in print.
He struck the taskmaster.
Yeah.
If he didn't have a sense of who he was, he wouldn't have left.
Yeah, I don't think I think maybe, Maxine, it's a good question. Maybe it's the first time we see it in print. I'll go back and look. And it would only come up here in Exodus, right? So, let me check, but I think it's maybe, he knew, but maybe the first time we see it, as Ellen said, so clearly written.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
thought he left when he struck the taskmaster because it was something he should have done, as opposed to going.
But what's noteworthy about having it spelled out here? Why is it important here? What does Moses say to God? What's Moses on the way to becoming? Who do we know Moses is going to be? Right? Right? I mean, he leads us out of slavery. He leads us to so many great places. He is our quintessential leader, and this is the framing, right? We're laying the groundwork of who he's about to become, and this is one of the first key building blocks in his leadership. So let's please go ahead.
Well, also going back to how he was raised, he needed to not be raised as a slave in order to do this. He needed to be raised as a ruler.
All right. To be a leader? Mm.
If we go back
Yeah.
to a little further, it says sometime.
Tell us which verse you're on.
On verse 11
Yep.
of 2. Sometime after that, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his kinfolk and witnessed their labors, and he saw an Egyptian beating an Hebrew, one of his kinsmen.
Right.
So it's not.
So kinfolk. Right.
And then he tried to get rid of the evidence.
Yes. We'll leave that part of his leadership later on. Yeah, we'll leave. That's right. We'll leave that. Let's. Yeah, that's it. That's funny. This morning in Jeremiah, when we were talking about Jeremiah, we also talked about getting supplies you need to do things, and under kind of whether or not that should be so clearly articulated in our texts, whether or not we want to see that level of detail and what that implies. So we'll leave that he covered up the details for now, but duly noted. Let's read on there just a couple more verses that we're going to read. You want to? Yeah, please, Herb. Thanks.
Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and free the Israelites from Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you. That shall be your sign that it was I who sent you. And when you have freed the people from Egypt, you shall worship God at this mountain." Moses said to God, when I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, Aliyah Asher Aliyah.
Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Highlight number 2 in your mind, right? Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. And what do you notice? Are those English words? All right, we don't have a translation in this text of Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. For those of you who have capacity for Hebrew or curiosity about Hebrew, what do you understand those words, that answer? How would you translate it? Those who speak Hebrew, how would you translate Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh?
What will be, will be.
Not what will be, will be.
What is?
I, right? It's personal. I will be, it's in the future tense. I will be, Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh. I will be who I will be. That's how God answers. I see a smile.
Well, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Right? And for everyone, designed to be taken in by everyone.
Yeah. Right. And so how, go ahead.
Is Asher who or what?
That which.
Right. Right. I will be who I will be. I will be that which I will be. I will, right? Asher is kind of a bit amorphous in the Hebrew. It depends on what it's attached to, right? But how do you, Margie just pointed that out for us, but how else, how do we understand that? It is so powerful. Our commentators have written pages and pages and pages about this name for God. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
So many different ways. I will be who I will be connotes that I'm not attached to who I am at this moment. There's that possibility of becoming. There's also that possibility of acceptance. I will be who I will be.
It is what it is, right? I'm going to be who I'm going to be, maybe is what God's saying. And is there a fluidity, right? Right? Is God actually saying, I'm becoming? Right? Right. There are so many times that the theology is God just is and it's static. Right? But this passage points to God is becoming.
And it feels like this is a convergence.
A convergence of.
And this present for an actualizing future for everyone, for all people. So I'm being very
Yeah, it could be, right? I'm going to come from the back and then there's some, and I'll come forward. Yeah, Liz.
This phrase always reminds me.
Just speak a little bit louder.
This phrase always reminds me of Lech Lecha, because
Yeah.
there's so many ways in which it can be translated, and because we don't translate it into English, there's just different ways to be translated and have very different meanings.
I can't, sorry, just speak a little bit louder.
So I said it reminds me of Lech Lecha, because there are so many different ways in which it can be translated, and you can't capture that in English.
Right. Even the translator of this Chumash left it as Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, right? Right. Yes. Ellen, did you want to, yeah?
And then when Moses goes on, he shortens it to only one Ehyeh.
Right.
A little nickname.
Right, Junior. Right, Ehyeh Junior. Right.
Well, that's what you do when you get to know somebody. You give them a personal name for you.
Gail?
The other thing I noticed is that this is the first passage where there's dialogue. And so when we think about what we will be, we can't know because we're so interdependent with others, with the divine. And so it's almost a representation of the coincidence of the dialogue, or first-time dialogue, with that name.
And comma, I would add a comma, and that the translators of this text chose to leave that part of the dialogue for us to unwrap, right? Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh didn't translate it for us to imagine that dialogue, to wonder, in this Reformed translation, right, of Exodus, right? That we know enough Hebrew to know how to translate that, but that the dialogue is not just between God and Moses, but meant for my homiletical kind of take on it, is meant for us as well to continue the conversation about how we understand God to be. Right? My understanding that dialogue is a launch for us to imagine, to wonder, to consider, to think about, to be faithful in.
It's not an angel.
It's not a what?
It's not an angel.
What's not an angel?
This encounter where we
Right. This is God, right.
encountered and it's not ever Jacob encountered
Right.
God. Jacob encountered an angel.
Right, Abraham, right.
This is now introducing Moses as a direct
Right. Connect.
interface with God.
Right. Right. Her-
This name leaves it open to interpretation. It's very different than
Right.
God's. I mean, if you twist it a little bit, it would be, I am what you want me to be, what you need me to be. And it leaves it open to interpretation by different religions who see God in different ways. It also allows you to create your own personal God. That's the power of it.
It's not fixed.
It's not fixed,
Right.
set in stone,
Right.
this is what I am,
Right.
and this is how we look at
Right.
it.
Right. And at the same time, we have any number of names for God in our sacred texts, right, that are very concrete, right? Rock, Redeemer. If I asked you for a handful of names for God, right, you could give them in the Hebrew, you could give the imagery in the English as well. Rock, Redeemer, outstretched, right, with a strong arm, God redeemed us from me, right? Right, very anthropomorphic, right, very bodily, very human-like. This one, nowhere near that. Even the Shekhinah, right, even the divine presence of God, I have this kind of wispy, gossamer in a field kind of vision of God floating, right? This one is even more amorphous, right, even more, yeah.
Can I ask a tricky question?
Yeah,
What is the morpheme? Morpheme that indicates future tense.
ehiyah.
But that's the whole verb. But is there a piece?
It's, I just had the Hebrew, I had the French, I had etra in my mind, but it's lihiot. It's what's the infinitive?
Well, there's what would be the past, for example?
Haya.
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 So this, okay.
Yeah.
It's picking.
Yeah, it's a future tense.
Just for people who are confused by the verb to be, when we sing Adon Olam, the past, present, and future is in that one line
Right.
that you already know. The who haya, the who hoveh, the who yiyeh. And those are past, present, and future. So you already have that in your
Right. And I'll leave you just in the interest of time, I'll leave you with this one short passage that a colleague of mine wrote where he said, "Tell me, Rebbe, a visiting minister once asked Reb Yerachmiel, what is the difference between I am that I am, asher ehiyeh, asher ehiyeh, and I shall be as I shall be?" The Rebbe drew the fellow's attention to the Hebrew text and said, first, I shall be is the more accurate rendition of the Hebrew. Second, I am is static, while I shall be is dynamic. A static God is a definable God. God is this and not that. Such a God is conditioned and controlled by those who claim power in God's name. But I shall be is unconditioned and uncontrollable. I shall be reminds us that no one has a handle on God. I shall be has no priests, only prophets, only men and women who meet God as God wishes to be met, and whose lives are changed and challenged forever. Thanks for studying a little bit. Let's say our bracha at the back of our Chumash as well. It's page 1602. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betokeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Join me please on page 586, as we rise for the Elenu. Shalom. I am thinking as we turn our thoughts to our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us and those who have died in this season in years past about the words of Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, that I will be who I will be. So many of us are who we are, large in part because of the people who came before us, and we are holding them in memory and in heart as we are recalling the most recent passings of Carl Coleman, father of Pauline Rosenberg, Milton Friedman, the father of Susan Harf, and Jeanette Schneider, the mother of Karen Newman, whose funeral will be 10 a.m. tomorrow morning here at Temple. We are also recalling the recent passing of Rabbi Shammai Cantor and of Amos Oz. This marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Carol Behrman, Jack Bell, Enid Bondi, Morris Byam, Sidney Chernick, Tony DeCario, William Denethorn, Sylvan Druce, Jacob Friedland, Anna Geiger, Ray Goldstein, Nicholas Greenfield, Mildred Horowitz, Leonard Kaplan, Harold Katzel, Samuel Kiner, Joseph Kiva, Sidney Krause, Thomas Kulik, Estelle Lazarov, Mikhail Lender, Jarrett Lobb, James Oates, Harry Olson, Anna Catherine Price, Jack Schulman, Janet Simpkins, Sylvia Snyder, Harold Solomon, Dwayne Statz, and Burton Stern. If there are other names that you would add to either list or other names better spoken aloud by you, please, as I look your way, share that name with us. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing as we join together on page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyamechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amir ran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to all who are mourning, as we join together in saying,
Amen.
Please be seated. Just a very few announcements. Nothing tomorrow. Don't come to temple tomorrow. We'd love to see you any other time, but there's nothing tomorrow at all. No religious school. I know you're terribly disappointed. No adult ed and nothing. I don't think anything happening tomorrow at temple. Monday and Tuesday, the funeral. Yes. Yes. I'm sorry. There's a funeral tomorrow morning, but no school, no anything else. My apologies. There is, the office will be closed on Monday and Tuesday, but in case of an emergency, one of us is reachable. And we have services next Friday night. Next Friday night, we have our Tu B'Shvat service and our Erev Shabbat service with birthday blessings, and Shabbat dinner with friends starting at 6 o'clock, so come. We'll have activities for those who have young ones or who can bring young ones or who are children at heart. There will be something for you to do. And then we resume Torah study and Shabbat morning services next Saturday morning. We want to give a mazel tov to Art and Judy Weinstein on the birth of their granddaughter. And I think... if there are any other announcements from anybody that we should know about, any accomplishments, any successes, any joys? We're thinking of all those who have some upcoming medical procedures. We're thinking of you in this week as well. Please, do you have a joy?
I just got my master's degree as a
Mazel tov, excellent, from strength to strength. Good, beautiful. Gail, were you sharing a hand?
It was, my daughter Susanna was awarded the Emerging Leader the Susan B. Anthony Center.
Fantastic. So could you hear that? Say a little bit louder.
My daughter Susanna Carola, who's a clinical psychologist and specializes in autism, was just awarded the Emerging Leader Award, first time to be annual award from the Susan B. Anthony.
Fantastic. Mazel tov. Lunch. I'm supposed to say luncheon, 5 baked potatoes and other goodies. So join us in the social hall immediately following services for some friendship and some good eats. And we hope that you will join us on page 643 for our closing song, page 643. Join us for Kiddush as we rise. And our closing benediction. May this Shabbat remind us of the importance of our names as we're thinking of Moses and of God, the ones we were given and the ones we call ourselves and the ones our deeds call us. May this Shabbat inspire us to be like Moses and to take on our jobs in the world, even when we are reluctant to do so. And may this Shabbat inspire us to become partners with that, all that God will be and all that we may be, as together we say. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. I ain't too loud.
Thanks.
Not yet, because it's next year.
Apparently, he's on antibiotics, but he wants to see the kids, he's just sleeping right now, so.
How long has he been on sick?
Just started.
Are you sure that's good for him to be around someone who's contagious?
I don't, I mean,
Marjorie, I didn't, sorry to interrupt. Sorry. How's today?
I don't know, it's a whole series, it's in and out. Yeah, but, so it's good.
I saw you posted on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Anna loved Facebook. I didn't even go near Facebook. I told her she got it.
I don't know what he's doing.
They're okay. They're okay. Yeah. It was a good holiday.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you together now for lunch?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go. I'm not taking the job.
Your favorite. I know your favorite.
Yeah, really. They ought to give me a membership. How you doing? Right. So you're taking on.
Yeah, she was.